The Ottoman Empire is one of history's most influential empires, known for its vast territorial reach and its strategic alliances with various European powers. During the empire's height, its diplomatic and military prowess shaped European and global politics. The Ottomans, a powerful empire straddling both Asia and Europe, faced numerous challenges not only from external threats, but also from the complex political dynamics within Europe. This was a time of intense rivalry, with the Habsburgs, Venetians, and French vying for power, influence, and dominance. In this environment, the Ottomans recognized the importance of forming alliances with various European powers to secure their own interests and bolster their military strength. The Ottoman diplomacy during the reigns of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, Selim I, and Murad III was crucial in establishing the empire as a major player on the European political stage. These alliances, especially with European powers like France, Venice, and England, were significant both for military reasons and for maintaining economic dominance in the Mediterranean and beyond. The Ottomans' ability to adapt to shifting alliances and political landscapes allowed them to maintain stability for centuries, despite the challenges they faced from within and outside the empire. The Franco-Ottoman alliance. One of the most significant and politically impactful alliances formed by the Ottomans was the Franco-Ottoman alliance, initiated during the reign of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent in the early 16th century. This alliance marked a groundbreaking shift in the way the Ottomans engaged with European powers. Suleiman I, known for his military and diplomatic skills, saw the Habsburgs, particularly Charles V, as the primary threat to Ottoman expansion in Eastern Europe and the Mediterranean. In response, Suleiman turned to France, which was also embroiled in a rivalry with the Habsburgs, particularly in the Italian Wars. In 1536, Sultan Suleiman signed a treaty with King Francis I of France, marking the beginning of a long-lasting alliance. This diplomatic move was significant, as it was one of the rare instances where a Muslim Ottoman sultan allied with a Christian European monarch. The Ottoman-French alliance was driven by shared political and military interests. France sought to undermine the influence of the Habsburgs, while the Ottomans aimed to secure their positions in Hungary, Eastern Europe, and the Mediterranean. Through this alliance, the Ottomans provided France with military support against Habsburg territories, notably through naval campaigns in the Mediterranean. The Ottoman fleet helped the French fight against Spanish control in the region, while France provided diplomatic cover for the Ottomans in the face of European Christian opposition. This Franco-Ottoman alliance not only weakened the Habsburgs' grip on Europe, but also helped Suleiman the Magnificent solidify his military and political strength in Central Europe. The Franco-Ottoman alliance also had economic benefits for both powers. For the Ottomans, the alliance allowed them to access French markets and strengthen trade relations with Western Europe, which in turn boosted the Ottoman economy. France, in exchange, gained access to Ottoman trade routes and Ottoman protection against Habsburg influence. Additionally, this alliance served as a way for France to maintain a foothold in Mediterranean affairs, balancing the power of the Habsburgs while gaining crucial Ottoman military support. The Ottoman-Venetian alliance. In addition to the Franco-Ottoman alliance, the Ottoman-Venetian alliance of the 16th century also played a critical role in Ottoman diplomacy. The Republic of Venice, a powerful maritime city-state with interests in the Mediterranean, often found itself in conflict with the Ottoman Empire over control of trade routes and territory. However, as the Ottoman Empire's military strength grew, the Venetians recognized the importance of establishing an alliance with the Ottomans. During the 1530s, as the Ottomans expanded their influence in the Balkans and the Mediterranean, the Venetians turned to the Ottomans for military assistance in defending their territories. The Ottomans and the Venetians began collaborating, particularly in defending against the Spanish Empire and papacy. This cooperation included joint military operations, which helped both powers secure their territories from external threats. The Ottoman-Venetian alliance was significant in stabilizing Ottoman control over the Mediterranean, as it helped the Ottomans solidify their dominance in naval power. Venetian naval expertise was used alongside Ottoman forces to defend key ports and trade routes. This alliance allowed the Ottomans to establish hegemony over the Mediterranean and continue to maintain trade dominance between Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Moreover, the Ottomans and the Venetians benefited from trade exchanges. The Venetians, with their vast mercantile network, provided the Ottomans with access to Western European markets, particularly in luxury goods and precious metals. In return, the Ottomans supplied the Venetians with spices, silk, and textiles from the East, which helped both powers thrive economically. However, this relationship was not without its tensions, and the Ottoman-Venetian alliance would eventually fade as Venetian interests conflicted with Ottoman territorial expansion. Despite this, the alliance remains an important example of how the Ottomans used diplomatic alliances to maintain their power and influence over European affairs. The rise of Ottoman diplomacy in the 17th century. In the 17th century, the Ottoman Empire continued to pursue strategic alliances with various European powers. The Habsburgs, who had once been the Ottomans' primary rivals, now found themselves facing the rise of France as the leading power in Europe. The Ottomans sought to leverage the Franco-Ottoman alliance further, while also establishing relations with other rising European powers like England and the Dutch Republic. The Ottomans, who had previously relied on military might to maintain their dominance, began to emphasize diplomacy more significantly. Diplomatic missions, treaties, and embassies were sent to Western Europe, especially to France and England, to solidify these relations. The Ottomans also established permanent embassies in major European capitals, enhancing their diplomatic presence on the world stage. By the 17th century, the Ottomans were no longer merely military conquerors, but also diplomatic strategists who understood the complexities of European politics. Their alliances with France, England, and the Dutch allowed them to maintain a balance of power in Europe and protect Ottoman interests in the Mediterranean. The Ottoman Empire faced an evolving geopolitical landscape in the 17th century, and while it had long relied on military strength to assert its dominance, the empire began to recognize the importance of diplomacy in securing its interests. As European powers grew in influence, particularly with the rise of naval powers like England and the Dutch Republic, the Ottomans had to adapt to these changes, using alliances and diplomacy as tools to maintain their position in the region. One of the key elements of Ottoman diplomacy during this period was the Franco-Ottoman alliance, which had begun in the early 16th century and continued to shape Ottoman foreign policy. The Ottoman rulers understood that forming strategic alliances with key European powers, especially France, would be critical in countering the influence of their traditional adversaries, notably the Habsburgs. The Habsburg monarchy was a formidable power in Europe, and the Ottomans recognized that a strong diplomatic relationship with France could counterbalance the power of the Habsburgs, particularly in Eastern Europe and the Mediterranean. In the 17th century, the Ottomans continued to collaborate with France, particularly under the reign of Louis XIV. France and the Ottoman Empire had common enemies, primarily the Habsburgs, and they both sought to weaken the Habsburg influence in Central Europe. Sultan Mehmed IV continued the Franco-Ottoman alliance, seeking mutual benefits, such as military support in key territorial disputes and assistance in defending Mediterranean trade routes. For the Ottomans, the partnership with France allowed them to maintain their dominance in the Mediterranean, a critical region for trade, military strategy, and political power. France, on the other hand, saw the Ottomans as a powerful ally in their own struggle against the Habsburgs, with the Ottomans providing crucial support in areas like Italy and Hungary. While France remained the Ottomans' primary ally, the Ottomans also sought to build relationships with England and the Dutch in the 17th century. The rise of these two nations as maritime powers meant that the Ottomans had to secure alliances with them in order to maintain control over the Mediterranean and trade routes. The Ottoman Empire entered into commercial treaties with England and the Dutch, which allowed for the establishment of permanent diplomatic missions in Istanbul and other Ottoman cities. These alliances, though not as politically significant as the Franco-Ottoman bond, provided the Ottomans with critical economic and naval advantages. In exchange for Ottoman support in various conflicts, the English and Dutch were granted access to Ottoman trade routes and allowed to establish trading posts in key Ottoman territories, especially in North Africa and the Levant. For the Ottomans, these treaties meant that their economic interests were protected and they could safeguard their maritime dominance against the growing competition from European naval powers. The Ottoman Empire also saw these alliances as a way to exert influence over European trade and to ensure that their strategic and commercial interests were maintained. In addition to these alliances, the Ottomans continued to play an important role in the politics of Eastern Europe, particularly through their relations with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the Ottomans and the Poles found common ground in the Black Sea region, where both empires sought to exert control over key territories. The Ottomans had a long-standing presence in Crimea and saw the Polish Commonwealth as an important partner in controlling the Black Sea and maintaining order in the Balkans. Diplomatically, the Ottoman Empire began to assert its presence in the European political scene by establishing embassies in key European capitals, including London, Paris, and Vienna. These embassies were not just representatives of the Sultan, but also vital diplomatic tools for securing Ottoman interests in Europe. The Ottoman diplomats were tasked with negotiating treaties, managing alliances, and maintaining Ottoman influence over European powers. The presence of Ottoman ambassadors in Europe became a symbol of the empire's increasing diplomatic sophistication and its ability to maintain a presence in European affairs. However, the Ottomans' success in diplomacy was not without challenges. Despite the growing influence of French, English, and Dutch alliances, the Ottoman Empire faced increasing pressures from internal conflicts and military setbacks. The empire had to adapt to these challenges by increasingly turning to diplomatic negotiations to avoid costly military conflicts. Ottoman diplomacy was essential not only for maintaining control over their territory, but also for safeguarding the empire's economic dominance and political influence in the face of growing European power. As the 18th century progressed, the Ottomans began to shift their foreign policy focus. The Ottomans had successfully used diplomacy to maintain their power and influence in Europe, but by the late 17th and early 18th centuries, they were faced with a diminishing military presence in some regions and increasing internal instability. The empire's ability to form alliances with European powers would continue to be important, but the military and economic aspects of diplomacy became even more critical as the empire faced new challenges from the Habsburgs, the Russian Empire, and other rising European powers. In summary, the rise of Ottoman diplomacy in the 17th century was crucial to the empire's survival and influence in European politics. Through alliances with powerful European states such as France, England, and the Dutch, the Ottomans were able to secure territorial integrity, maintain military strength, and safeguard their economic interests in the Mediterranean and beyond. As the Ottomans navigated a complex political landscape, their use of diplomacy helped establish them as an essential player in European affairs, despite the challenges they faced from internal and external pressures. Ottoman diplomacy allowed the empire to adapt, negotiate, and maintain a balance of power that would shape its legacy for centuries to come.